Hey there, and welcome. Taking control of your finances can feel, well, pretty overwhelming, right? But it really doesn't have to be. Today, we're going to break it all down into a clear, simple strategy. We're going to put together the best tactics so you can build a solid financial future, one step at a time. So, let's get into it.
So, to really get why having a strategy is so important, let's start with a story that I think we can all relate to. An investor named Julian found an old McDonald's receipt from right before the pandemic, and what he saw was pretty shocking. The price of his usual Big Mac meal had just shot up. Now, this isn't really about burgers, of course. It's the perfect everyday example of inflation, and it shows how the value of your cash can just quietly disappear if you're not paying attention.
Yep, that's a 35% increase in just a couple of years. That really puts the impact of inflation into perspective, doesn't it? If your money is just sitting in a bank account, it is losing its buying power every single day. And that's exactly why having a financial plan isn't some luxury for the super rich, it's an absolute must for anyone who wants to protect their future.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to walk through 4 clear stages. First, we'll clear the decks by getting a handle on debt. Second, we'll build a solid foundation with savings and a budget. Third, we'll get into the exciting stuff, making your money work for you. And finally, we'll look at picking the right tools for the job. All right, let's dive into the first and most critical step, managing your debt. I mean, you'd never build a house on shaky ground, right? Well, high-interest debt is basically financial quicksand. Think about it this way. Paying off a high-interest loan is like getting a guaranteed return on an investment. If you've got a credit card charging you, say, 8% interest, every single euro you pay off is a euro you've basically earned an 8% return on, just by avoiding those future charges. It's a risk-free, guaranteed win, and it has to be your #1 priority. The only real exception is usually a mortgage, since the interest rate can sometimes be lower than inflation itself.
Now, when it comes to actually paying down that debt, there are 2 really popular methods. First, you've got the snowball method. This one is all about psychology. You knock out the smallest debt first, which gives you a quick win and the motivation to keep rolling. Then there's the avalanche method. This is pure math. You attack the debt with the highest interest rate first, which saves you the most money in the long run. Honestly, neither one is better than the other. The best one is the one you'll actually stick with. So once you've got a plan to tackle that high-interest debt, it's time to build your financial fortress. This next part is all about creating security and defense for your day-to-day life.
And a cornerstone of that fortress? It's your emergency fund. Think of it as your own personal financial shock absorber. The car breaks down, you have an unexpected medical bill. Life happens, right? This fund means you can handle it without wrecking your whole financial plan, or even worse, having to take on more high-interest debt. Just figure out your essential monthly costs, like rent, food, bills, and then aim to save up 3 to 6 months' worth in an easy-to-access savings account.
So where does the money for that fund come from? Well, a budget is key, but it doesn't have to be a nightmare. The 50-30-20 rule is a brilliant place to start. The idea is simple. 50% of your take-home pay goes to your absolute needs, 30% goes to your wants, and that crucial 20% goes straight into savings and investments. It's a super simple way to make sure you're living your life today while still building for tomorrow.
And you don't have to do all this with a clunky spreadsheet either. There are a ton of fantastic apps out there that can link right to your bank accounts, categorize your spending for you, and show you exactly where all your money's going. It makes sticking to a budget so much easier. Okay, so our defenses are up and our foundation is secure. Now it's time to go on the offensive. This is the really exciting part where we switch from just protecting our money to actively making it grow. This is how you really build long-term wealth. The real magic behind investing comes down to this one powerful idea, which was famously called the 8th wonder of the world by Einstein: compound interest. It's just the process where your investments make money and then that money starts making its own money. It creates this incredible snowball effect that can turn small, regular savings into a serious fortune over time. Just look at how this plays out in a real example. Let's say you invest just 100 euros a month. As this chart shows, getting to your first 10,000 euros might take around 7 years. But because of compounding, hitting the next 10,000 takes only 4 more years. And the one after that, a little over 2 years. You can literally see the growth accelerating. Your money starts doing the heavy lifting for you. So where do you put your money to make this happen? Well, for most people just starting out, the best answer is usually an ETF or an exchange-traded fund. Instead of trying to pick the next big winning stock, remember Nokia? They were a giant and then they just collapsed.
An ETF lets you buy a tiny piece of the entire market. For example, an MSCI World ETF gives you a stake in over 1,600 of the world's biggest companies, all in one go. It's instant diversification, it's super cheap, and it's simple.
And this is probably the most important point of all. You do not need to be rich to start investing. There's a great story about a father who was sure he couldn't afford to save anything. He was challenged to start with just €1 a day. A year later, he was easily saving €300 a month. It just goes to show that starting early and being consistent, even with tiny amounts, is way more powerful than waiting to invest a big chunk of money later on.
All right, last piece of the puzzle. You know what you want to invest in, like an ETF, but now you need to decide where to actually hold it. This is where different investment accounts, or envelopes, come into play. And choosing the right one can save you a ton in taxes.
In France, the two heavy hitters are the PEA and the Assurance V, and they're really built for different jobs. As you can see here, the PEA is a total powerhouse for long-term stock investing. After 5 years, your gains are basically tax-free. Think of it as your growth engine. The Assurance V, on the other hand, is the champion of flexibility and inheritance planning. It lets you invest in a much wider range of things and has huge tax advantages when it comes to passing on your wealth. The truth is, a lot of people end up using both for different goals.
So, we've gone through the whole playbook, from clearing away debt all the way to choosing your investment tools. We've taken what seems like a really complex subject and laid out a clear strategic path. So, after all that, there's really only one question left to ask. What's your first step?